Welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, telling the stories of supposed to be Canadian affiliate owners and coaches, but we'll talk about that in a second. Brought to you by affiliatevaservices.com, offering you affordable admin support for your affiliate. So we have every now and then some special guests, and so I'm excited that our next special guest, although you are part of the, and I don't mean to misrepresent this in any way, you're part of the British Commonwealth still, aren't you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. We're sorry. Interruption. I'm originally from the Republic of Ireland.
Okay. So you are absolutely not part of the British Commonwealth. Okay.
No.
So we don't have any connection then. Never mind.
Well, we have a connection that once upon a time we also had the British monarchy as our head of our country, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, exactly. That at least there's some Canadians listening as opposed to the US who might not care at all about this. So introduce yourself. What do you do? Who are you? And then today's question of the day. We always do question of the day. If you could live anywhere besides where you're currently living for a month, where would that be?
Oh, wow. That's going to get me. Right. But first, I'm going to introduce myself.
Yeah, the
Hi,
easy stuff first.
The easy stuff first. My name is Farran Mackay. I'm Irish, but I'm been based in the Netherlands for about over 20 years now. So we say I've been Dutchified. I've become a bit more direct as such. And my background is I have over 30 years experience as a sports instructor of one form or another. First was sailing and then snowboarding. And then 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, I discovered CrossFit and I turned my attentions to the CrossFit space. My other background is I worked in formal education for 15 years in not just as a teacher, but also a teacher educator. And I also did research in how to support teachers change and improve their teaching practices. And about 5 years ago, plot twist happened in my life and I got the opportunity to turn my attention 100% to CrossFit. So what I've done is I've taken all my learnings and experiences from the formal educational space and I've brought it into the CrossFit ecosystem where I support coaches and affiliate owners to deliver an exceptional member experience as such in whatever form that looks like for them. So that's the short version.
I forget what the second question was. No, it was where would you live other than where you're currently living?
I'm intrigued to live in either one of the Scandinavian countries, like Sweden or Norway or Finland for a while. And the other one was about 15 years ago, I had planned to move to Canada, to West Coast of Canada. Okay. So I think somewhere in there is something to do with, towards the Arctic Circle. So.
Okay. Well, as my glowing white arms will tell you that if you need vitamin D, Canada or other Scandinavian countries may not be the best option for that. But actually, we, as we're recording this, are just over a week away from the Canadian affiliate gathering that was held in Banff. Shout out to Kyle, and he was on last week's episode. But yeah, I would live in Canmore, BC for a month if I could. And actually, that's going to hopefully be the plan one day. So,
I love it.
So, obviously, as your introduction stated, there's lots that we're going to get through here. I think a lot of Canadian affiliate owners will find this interesting, and even just to hear people's stories outside of North America. There's a lot of US CrossFit stories, but it's cool to hear that it happens in other places besides North America. Let's still unpack a little from Ireland to the Netherlands. What brought you to the Netherlands, and do you have to speak Dutch to be in the Netherlands?
So luckily you don't have to speak Dutch to be in the Netherlands. You can function quite well with English, and especially if you are based towards the big cities of Amsterdam, The Hague, and things like that. Certainly nowadays, most people are bilingual as such in the Netherlands, at least have enough to understand what you're trying to say to them. But what brought me originally is that I was offered a job I couldn't refuse. I worked as an engineer in the corporate world, and where I'm based now is actually the equivalent of the Silicon Valley of Europe as such. So it was a job offer I couldn't turn down 20 years ago. But in my time in corporate world, I realized there is some dissonance. It didn't quite match with my deep beliefs and my values and my norms as such. And so this was my attempt to move to Canada. I wanted to do something that helped people better themselves, but not necessarily in a formal manner, but just to enjoy life a bit more as such. And just to use the Mary Kondo, spark joy, whatever you want to. Then I think it was 2008, we had the financial crash. And so my plans to move to Canada fell through as such. I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? And someone mentioned to me, do you know what? I think, you're a good sailing instructor and snowboarding and stuff. They're really looking for maths teachers in the Netherlands to teach in English. I was like, this could be something for me. And I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with the aha moments that people have. And then my journey in teaching, and this now reflects in my approach to how I coach and do coach development, is it really shifted from teaching mathematics to helping that person in front of me be the best that they could be in whatever it was. So it really changed for me. It shifted from the content to student focused as such. And so I spent my time being a teacher educator, doing research and things like that. And then I noticed at the same time in the CrossFit space, certainly in Europe, there was no messaging about putting the member central. We was very much teaching, seeing, correcting, and that was it. And although teaching, seeing, correcting is very important, I saw the power of being student focused, being member focused as such, and how much you can support somebody in making long lasting change if you focus on that aspect. And so I had the luck to be asked to do coach development at the box where I was a coach already as such. And from there it grew. I found my passion. It was the alignment of a lot of stars as such. I had discovered CrossFit at a point in my life when I needed something like CrossFit. And then I fell in love with the methodology, and I fell in love with how effective it is in instilling long-term positive change in people's health. And then as a coach, I fell in love with helping other people do that. And then I saw this opportunity that to use the knowledge and experience I had to support other coaches being even more effective and more efficient in what they did. And supporting affiliate owners in understanding that just because they learned how to coach by literally being thrown to the lions as such is not necessarily the most effective and efficient way to make sure you have a coach in your affiliate who delivers the experience you want for your members. So yeah, that's essentially what I do now. So I'm so passionate about the methodology and the ecosystem that I really want it to survive. And to do that, we need to make sure the people on the front line, the coaches and the affiliate owners, are equipped to be able to do what they need to do and to deliver the methodology.
Completely agree. And we got a lot to work through there. So the nice thing about the methodology is written and kind of discussed upon, and as Greg would say, like, hey, the first thing we need to do when we have a conversation about something is we need to define our terms to make sure we're talking about the same thing. It needs to be measured, it needs to be proven and repeatable and empirically measured, meaning subjectivity is removed. I could say, hey, that is what I say it is. And trigger warning, are people actually coaching? Is statistically, would you guess, would it be if 51% is the over-under variable, are most people over or under on the statistic level actually coaching in CrossFit?
Well, I think we're going to look at this word coaching and what that really means.
That's what I mean. So I want you to answer the statistic first, if I may, and then we have to understand what coaching is through your lens. So
through my lens, I believe that the majority of people standing in front of members delivering the CrossFit methodology are not doing it as a coach. Yeah,
I would agree.
And then I'm going to explain what I'm thinking. So for me,
that's all the time we got, and that's fair.
No, but for me,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
carry on.
I want to be clear. For me, coaching. So we have teaching or training,
Yeah,
teachers, trainers, and coaches.
yeah,
And I see teachers as more like this is passing off knowledge as such.
yeah,
It is more a one-way street. A training is more of guiding someone through the thing, and they do the thing. They do the thing. A coach, however, is someone who guides somebody through the process and helps instill long-lasting change in the behaviors so that when the coach is not there, the behaviors, the successful behaviors keep going as such.
yeah.
And so that's where, and through no fault of their own, a lot of people standing in front of classes are either teachers or trainers.
Or just a purveyor of words that are on a TV or a
Yeah,
whiteboard.
or simply they're just controller of the timer.
And yeah,
Yeah,
timer, music, you got this.
yeah. And I get it,
Yeah,
because unless we have experienced ourselves what true coaching is, it's hard to know what's so good about it, what
right,
difference it makes.
right.
Um, and often people go, "Yeah, but how can I experience that?" I go, "Look, you can get it. Maybe you don't get the full breadth of it, but you can get a glimpse of it at your level 1 and your level 2.
Yeah,
That relentless coaching, those few minutes when you're in that circle where you're getting that feedback. Now imagine doing that, every lesson, every day, every month, every year. And imagine how much change you would instill in your members. And it's not just about the change in movement. It's because
right.
through coaching, it's also you build up relationships with them, and you are able to find ways in to discuss about the more important things like stress management or sleep or nutrition. The things that are at the bottom of the pyramid that we know if they're not solid,
Yeah.
everything else we build on top is going to be always rattly as such. And so this is also probably some of my messages that we can do better. We can do better at helping our members as such. And it's no blame, it's no finger pointing, but it's like as a whole ecosystem, we have to stand up and go, yeah, we do want to be better.
Well, and agreed. And I want to circle back to something you said that I kind of mentally flagged. It's the what would you say about the content versus the people in front of you?
Yeah. So as a new teacher, I was really focused on, the content. I had to make sure they had understood this concept. I lost sight of the student, of the person in front of me, and what was important to them in that moment. And admittedly, teenagers are sometimes a bit more complex than adults because they're not sure what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, our member is a person in front of us, and we have to look at them as a whole being, and with connections all around their lives, into their work, into their family, into their friends, and everything else. And we cannot just be focused on the movement
well, and I
because,
want to cut you off. Sorry, because
yeah,
I want to. I don't. That statement is extremely profound, and I want to like just unpack it a little bit
mhm,
more for the tens of people listening to this. Is because I think what can happen. So what we're referring, let's again define and start to put our terms in. The content would be like the workout of the day.
yes,
From a micro level, let me paint the big picture and then toss it back to you. The micro level would be day to day, the contents, but then the macro would be how it works out to a week and then versus a month. Someone might say, like, whether they buy programming or do their own programming, but our programming is so great. We have the best programming around. And I don't get why you don't get this. It's Fran, it's on the board. It's so good. Like, it's a great benchmark, right? And like, why aren't you getting it? And why do people keep going on hold or canceling or taking the summer off? Because this content is so good, right? And so,
yeah,
but and we can see that where is the missed mark entirely is what you're saying.
yeah. It's seeing the person as a person as such. It's that deeper understanding of their why, and not just the surface why of they want to be fitter or they want to lose however many pounds or things like that, but it's understanding what was so much more painful in their life than walking into your affiliate that day. Because walking into most affiliates takes a lot of, gumption,
Sure.
a lot of balls to walk into an affiliate. So what else was so painful in their life that got them to the point that they walked in? And until as coaches or as affiliate owners, until we open ourselves up to start being intrigued and curious about this deeper why, we're missing out the possibilities to really make long-term effective changes in their lives.
Mhm. Well, and I've talked about this in other avenues, but like if we relate it to scaling, it's like me as a coach, I'm gonna now again as we go back to that content is like, hey, today's our workout, Fran, 2159 thrusters and pull-ups. I want you to do the pull-ups and thrusters unbroken. If not, you're gonna scale to jumping pull-ups or you're gonna scale to ring rows and you're gonna scale to this weight for the sake of time. But then fast forward to the end, Farran, me as a coach, Farran always picks the wrong scaling option. Why? How did
Why?
I explained to her at the start that she should have to do the pull-ups unbroken, and she picked the wrong scaling option.
Yeah.
Again,
And didn't even change in the middle of it.
right,
Yeah.
right. And even still, but like, so I once again, it's to go back to that need. And I think always of like a business perspective as thriving businesses, like that going back to that content first, I'm still in that statement. It's like, I want the best for Farran as an athlete, but she's picking the wrong scaling option. It's because you put the content out to her versus come to a
The need.
decision of understanding what Farran's
Yeah.
goals are or what she would be helpful. So,
Yeah. And I say to people, scaling, if you look at it, is the ability of the athlete where that overlaps with the intended stimulus of the workout. But we can be even more effective if we take that and then we overlap that with the goals of the member themselves and your ability to coach that member in that class in that moment. And we get this like diamond where all these four things overlap. And that's the sweet spot we should be in, because that would have me doing Fran within the intended time domain you want me to do it in. Maybe it's 4 minutes or something. And it will have me leaving the box that day going, oh, I did the thing. Yeah, whatever that thing was for me. And maybe it was, I have 2 barbells and, the first 2, the 21 and the 15 are at one weight and the last 9 are the heavier weight. Maybe that's what it needs to be for me. But until we start looking at where those moments overlap, we're never going to give our members what they want. And if we don't give them what they want, they will not be open for what they need. Yeah. They're like, yeah, and we have to give them for what they want, because then if they get what they want, they'll keep coming back and keep coming back for more. And they will be our greatest ambassadors. They will be telling everybody. I know, stereotypical CrossFitters tell the world, but they won't just be telling people, they'll be getting people to come to the box as well with them. Yeah. And so this is where more member focused, understanding what they want is just a win-win for everybody. And I often say it's like affiliate owners often complain, oh, I have to get more leads. I have to get more leads. I have to get more leads. And you're like going, no, you have to stop your bucket leaking first. There's no point keep pouring water in if people are leaving. You have to really understand why they're leaving and really look deep down going, what can we do differently to make sure this bucket stops leaking? Because if we do that, then everything else starts falling into place.
Well, and they build the like your natural attrition, as I just said, is natural, but the longer people can stay, the more they become pillars of your community and culture, and they'll be your largest advocates, as you're saying.
Yeah, but that's also where you should question. I mean, there's natural attrition because somebody's moved away or changed job, or there's a substantial life change for whatever it is. But there's also attrition because people are bored, they move on, want to find something new. But then why are they bored? Oh, they've plateaued, or they haven't had that, that first kick in those first 2 or 3 years of getting all those PRs and stuff like that. They don't get that kick anymore. Okay, but then how can you help them get an equivalent kick? And I think unless we dig deeper into those moments of why people leave, we don't have a true understanding how we can service as many members as possible.
So where, you and I had talked about this offline in a previous conversation, but it's worth kind of digging into now, is we equated it to like coaching 10 general physical skills, right? As you know, and we don't have to lay what those out are, just understand that out of the 10, 4 are neurological, 4 are organic adaptations, and then 2 are both. So would you say that what your focus on and helping coaches develop is on the neurological side adaptation or the organic adaptation?
I think this is more about the neurological adaptations. It's that awareness of how somebody, and by neurological, not just motor patterns and things like that, but I really do mean about how people think about things and approach things and feel about things, because that's often all there as well. And I think often, and this we're going back to the measurable things again, it's easier to measure somebody's deadlift and it's easier to measure
or if they had a fault or not, or like, hey, they're going around their knees, I corrected it, boom, that's measurable as I did the thing.
I did the thing. But, and this is where we get into the more subjective world of, did somebody go home with a feeling that they'd achieved something?
Right.
But this is where we go back to, if we know their why and we make it, sorry to use the term, smart. We've all heard it, that it's, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bounded. Most of us don't truly help our members make smart goals. And therefore, we've nothing to measure against.
Right.
And this is where we can help our members understand, even in the moment of that workout for the day, what's your goal? Okay, your goal is not to get out of breath during the double unders, for example, not to hold your breath. Okay, that's going to be our focus for today. Did you achieve it? You achieved it in 4 out of the 5 rounds. Good work. Next time, let's focus on that 5th round as well. But that's where we can make things much more measurable as such, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And like thinking about then if out of the 10 general physical skills, power and speed can be both trained and practiced, so an intersection of both, I feel like both threshold training and mechanics, consistency, and intensity are an aspect of both the neurological side of coaching, we'll say, and the training side, because you can't just say like, hey, I want you to stop going around your knees, right? Or it's like, hey, it's like, I'm going to make that fix when Farran's here, but then she turns her back and I'm just going to go back to the way I like to do it.
Yeah. And that's back to seeing the person in front of you, building up those relationships. And we haven't mentioned the word before, but trust, building up the trust that you really have this person's best interests in mind. And yes, sometimes that means we have to have the hard conversations with them. Sometimes it means we have to maybe, speak to their ego as such, whether that's a big ego or it's a small ego, help them believe in themselves, or, go, today's not the day to do, 61 kilos on the barbell. Today's a day for something else. But it's about spending the time and building those relationships, so you build up the trust, so they then in turn will trust you when you say, let's make sure the bar doesn't go around the knees like that. And they understand that even if you don't have the time in that moment to explain the why, there is a why behind it.
My head gets, no, it's great, like, because it's so cool, and I've tried to, like, this is stuff where like we could just nerd out, but then
completely
I'm trying to think of who would be listening. Right.
We can go down rabbit holes here, but I think I'm going to take it a step back. I'm going to try and make it practical, maybe for any of the
that was
owners
what
and
I was
coaches.
going to lean towards. Yeah.
And so it's an exercise I do, and maybe we can add this to the show notes. I have a link to me doing this with other affiliate owners and coaches. Is the exercise is first sit down, and from the members' perspective, write down what would make a good lesson for them. What would be a good lesson experience for them? Okay. Just write it down, but from the members' experience. So whether it's Mary, your 24-year-old collegiate rower, or it's Tom, your 72-year-old grandfather, whatever it is, and you keep going. And then you're going to dig a bit deeper and go, okay, well, what would an exceptional lesson look like? Where if Tom went to another box and he'd come back going, wow, it was amazing because of this thing. Yeah. If we go through all that process, we generally come up with some themes that people generally want. And it is, they want obviously to be safe. I know it should not have to be said, but they do want to
Mhm.
be safe
Right.
emotionally and physically.
Yep.
And they want things to start and end on time because they've negotiated with somebody in their life somewhere that this is the hour for themselves.
Yep.
After that, they want to move because maybe they've been sitting all day and this is their 1 hour where they get to move. So they don't want a 12-minute whiteboard brief. They want to get moving. And some people, they want to improve. They want to feel like they're making progress as such. And then you have that they want to go home with a satisfied feeling. So the goals are reached. And then for some people, atmosphere is important. It's jokes are made or the music or whatever. And this is our hard job as coaches, is that every member has these needs in a different order of priorities. And it
Mhm.
gets even more complicated. It changes from one day to the next.
Mhm.
So, as coaches and affiliate owners, we need to figure out how can we hit as many of these needs as possible in our class? What can I do as such? And then I ask people to go, okay, now that we have these needs, how are we going to do this as coaches? And what I can call them coaching practices because we can see them on the outside. They're external. They're not like what a coach is thinking or what a coach is seeing. It's like something I could observe from the outside or a member could experience from the outside. Okay, what coaching practices would help us meet that need? For example, um, you do a check-in with every member within the first 10 minutes of the class. And you can make it more exact. You do a social check-in with a member, or you can make a goal-oriented check-in. And
Mhm.
this is where you can start creating these lists of coaching practices that will meet your members' needs. And once you have these lists, and you'll probably have too many of them. You're gonna have to make you're gonna have to make some priorities. Okay, what is the absolute minimum experience you want to deliver to your members? What coaching practices are they? And then you know where your bar is set. And from there, you can then reflect on your own coaching or observe or evaluate whatever you want to do. Okay, where are we at the moment in relation to this bar? Okay, we're not meeting the bar in all the spots. Let's work on getting those things up. Let's work on those coaching practices because then we have this singular lens to look at what we're doing in the affiliate. So
Mhm.
we're having this lens of this member experience. What do they need? And then we figure out, okay, what coaching practices can we use to make that need? And then, okay, what parts do we need to develop to make that need? So all the time, it's focused on what the member is because often, don't get me wrong, teaching, seeing, correcting is extremely important part of all of this,
Of course.
but we can get lost in the bigger picture as such. And Mary does not want relentless coaching on the depth of her wall balls if she's there to simply move that day and to feel good in herself. She's not going to go home happy. And she
Yeah.
might not want to come back again to a workout like that. Yeah. So that's where we as coaches have a fun time navigating what our members want and need in one moment.
Well, and I think this might fire you up to hear is so like as you said it, yeah, is like teaching, seeing, and correcting. Oftentimes the teaching, as you said, gets too wordy. I'm now delivering too much content. And then the seeing and correcting aspect is I'm looking for the thing you're doing wrong. And right. And so now it's
And not celebrating the thing you're doing right.
and that I've had 13 years later had this huge light bulb quite literally within like the past 6 months is I attempted the level 4 in December of
Mhm.
23, failed it, and then said I don't want to fail again. So I started working with a mentor and shout out Joe Maisley. And he really helped me start to point out specifically what that person is doing well.
Yeah.
And then I started to see light bulbs, and it's like, oh wow, I'm gonna keep doing this more and more. But like even in the middle of the workout, that's it, Farran. Way to keep pushing those knees out. Jenny, that's exactly what I want to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And you start to realize you said it off camera, but you know, who's sleeping at your feet right now is your dog. And right, as animals learn by that positive reinforcement, right? And so I guess what I mean is someone might hear what you're talking about and already start to get overwhelmed.
Of course. Yes.
But so what I'm saying is, it's like if we only look at coaching as the seeing and correcting, well, you can work on calling your reps, you can call down and up, you can be a seeing and correcting ninja. But if you're only the shark swimming the waters looking for the things that the person is doing wrong, you might not actually be creating a moment of psychological safety. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say, yeah. And I think there's also been quite a number of studies where it shows it's either between 6, 7, or 8. You need 6, 7, or 8 positive feedback moments for them to be open for a less a constructive feedback moment as such.
Yeah.
So if all we're doing is constructive feedback the whole time, there's a certain moment where they're just going to filter you out and go, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do the thing while Farran's looking at me, and then she's walked away. Grant, I'll just go back to what I was doing before, as such. And the reason is back to this building up the trust, building up the relationship, and things like that, and recognizing when they've done something well, and positive reinforcement. So,
well, and like exactly like, and that's what we said. So the struggle of coaching is to balance all those things in a 60-minute class with all these different personalities, but realizing you can hit it broad sweeping. So there might be some new coaches who are listening and thinking like, I can't even get a member to scale, or I can't even to get them to do my warm up. And right. So it's like, instead of like, what can I get them to do? I guess what you're saying is like, well, hey, how can we look inward to say, are we building that trust? And again, maybe it is just starting to complement more in the workout as opposed to constantly telling the person what they're doing wrong.
Yeah. But it goes back to connecting at a human level. Right. And it takes time, and it's usually based on, you know, knowing what a person does and what their needs are, what their why is, and things like that. But it's also showing up authentically the whole time, you know, that we are genuine in ourselves, and that we genuinely care. There's no point asking someone, oh, how was your day? And then you're, you know, as they're talking, you're distracted by something else.
Right.
Yeah. That's not authentic or genuine. Then they just feel like, oh yeah, that's somebody just asked me a question because they have to ask me a question. And so I would say to newer coaches, especially, take the time to listen, to understand, not to respond. Try and understand where that person's coming from. This is tough because all the way through our school history, everything, we've been taught to listen to respond by teachers and educators. Yeah. They say something and we have to give them an answer.
Right.
Yeah. We haven't been trained to listen, to understand where somebody's coming from. So I would say, whatever you're doing, whatever your level is at, just ask a question, and then try and listen to understand. And maybe ask some follow-up questions if you're not clear about what they're trying to tell you. And in the beginning, it will take time. And so you will not be able to do this with every member in every lesson, but just start with one member. One member, listen to understand. That would be my tip.
Yeah. And I'm actually listening to a book, Never Split the Difference. And it's about hostage negotiation and using those to understand people. And right, you have to empathize with the person first to get them to be able to persuade them to get on your side.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but I think what you're saying is like, we jump straight to get on my side, versus if you think like, and I guess what we're trying to do is layer in, how can people start working on these things little by little with the interactions they're already having? It's like, why doesn't Brenda ever listen to your scaling options? Or why does she want to do banded pull-ups so badly? Like, hey, help me understand this.
Yeah. Be curious.
Right.
and this is the tough part, don't come across as judgmental, as in, oh, why are you doing the banded pull-ups again? Yeah. It's like, oh, do you know what? I see you're getting really good at the banded pull-ups. Have you thought about other options? Because, variation, da, 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 da. And that's where you can explore where this banded pull-up moment is coming from without being judgmental about it. Because once people feel judged about something, there's a Dutch expression, they're going to put their heels in the ground a bit deeper.
Sure. Yeah. That's North American as well. Dig your
Good, because I've lived here so long now, I don't know always which set of expressions belong to which language.
I was talking with Daniel Chaffee on an episode, and he kept saying, in my garden, doing CrossFit in my garden. And I had to say, now for everyone listening, that's a backyard.
Exactly. Sometimes we have those moments. But
yes,
that's where we need to be curious and not judgmental. And we need to understand, where is this coming from? And it does take time and it does take effort. And I can appreciate that if you have 5 classes in a row, it might feel like too much. But just like every skill, it is about practicing. And the more you do it, the more reps you do, the easier it becomes, the more natural it feels, and you don't have to think about it as such. It's like the first time we all ever, tried to do some form of proper air squat as such, with somebody coaching us. So we were like, oh gosh, this is much harder than I ever imagined. Yeah. Right. Or in the level 1 seminar, when you have, I think was it 9 minutes of like squatting with a PVC pipe, or and it's like everybody has muscle pain the next day. We have to remember that all of these things that we're doing as coaches also take practice and also take reps, and they take time, and they take reflection, and they take understanding as such. And we can't just go from 0 to 100. We have to take the time to take the steps in between.
Well, and it's to paint, we talk about new coaches a lot, but let's go with the experienced coaches. I would hate that it'd be anyone listening, but I don't think it would be uncommon, and I've seen it in my dealings with affiliate owners over the years, is someone's been a CrossFit coach for 12, 15 years. They're an affiliate owner. They've owned their affiliate for 12, 15 years. They have this core group of people that aren't going anywhere, but it's shrunk down to just this core group of people that aren't going anywhere, and they stay stuck at that 40 to 60 member range. Right. And they just, and it's like, can't figure out what's going on. And I wonder if that familiarity with that member who, at that point, all those people, they might as well have punch cards on the wall, like to clock in and clock out, that does an experienced affiliate owner lose their curiosity because they've seen that member for 8 to 10 years as well, every day.
I think that's an excellent point, Matt. We have to remain curious about our members. Sorry if you hear my dog.
Yeah, right. She agreed. There we go.
Yeah, she agrees. Yeah, no, but we have to remain curious, because once we lose our curiosity, we lose our motivation to grow. And if we're not growing, our members don't grow, or they outgrow us and move on to somewhere else. As simple as that. And so that's where lifelong curiosity is what I believe we really do need. And I can understand from affiliate owners and coaches who've been doing this a long time, and they've gotten into a rhythm and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I would suggest them, do you know what, go do a drop-in somewhere else. Maybe not in your town, somewhere else. Maybe it's not the best coaching in the world. Maybe it is the best coaching in the world. Doesn't matter. Drop in, talk to other coaches, talk to other affiliate owners, because you're not alone. You're not the only one out there experienced this. And this is something I think that has happened in the affiliate landscape this last maybe 15 years or so, is that more affiliates have become islands for themselves, and they don't reach out and connect to other affiliates. Same with coaches. Coaches don't communicate with coaches in another affiliate, even though they're literally 2 miles down the road or something. And I think it's such a pity that we don't, maybe this is a whole other podcast in itself, but we don't see each other as colleagues. We see each other as competitors for some reason. And I get it, because we have this idea that there's this limited pool of people who are going to do this thing. But what would happen if we all joined forces? because I really don't believe that we are each other's competitors. I don't even believe High Rocks or whatever system out there is our competitors. Our competitors are things like Netflix or, food deserts, things like that. They're the things that we should be fighting up against and not each other. And so one of the things I would encourage members or affiliate owners and coaches, especially with more experience, to go out and connect with others. And it's not all about who has the biggest member number and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding there's other people out there who are going through what you're going through as well, and that they appreciate it. And some of them have come out the other side. And maybe there's stuff that they have done that will help you, and that you don't have to go and reinvent the wheel yourself. You can go and learn from others. I think that's, another thing. I wish I want to shake affiliate owners and coaches, like, go out and talk to others. Yeah.
Well, and like case in point, going back to what we said at the beginning, is at CrossFit Banff, like the summit, Kyle's space is not big. It's, I don't know what his square footage is. Funny enough, like he had to have a hole cut in the ceiling or like to do rope climbs, like and it was just cool, like to just sit there and be like, wow, this space is so different than mine. I wonder what his challenges are. And then we talk about someone who lives in a transient tourist town where that gets 400 drop-ins a year, up to like 6 or 7 in a day. Right? It's
and so that type of coaching is going to look very different to somebody who has 40 or 60.
That's right. And like, we can think about that in like Las Vegas or other transient towns, but like realizing, okay, there's these small places, and be like, wow, how do you deal with that? How do you manage it? What are the things you do? And so I guess maybe to your point, as we stumble towards this, is maybe it's easier to have these conversations with, or be curious about, other affiliate owners and coaches, to reignite our curiosity within our own affiliate.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I've done in the Netherlands over the last couple of years is organize what I call coaches gatherings. So around, I think we're on our 10th now as such, that's coming up. And it is literally just 3 hours where coaches and affiliate owners come together to connect. We do a couple of workshops given by other coaches. It's hosted by a different box each time. We do a bit of a workout together, and then we have some roundtable discussions. It sounds very formal, but it is more just a group of coaches come together to get to know each other. And what we've seen from this is that not only have coaches gone back and affiliate owners gone back inspired, but they've gone and visited each other's boxes as well. I go, how do you do this? Oh, you do it that way. I know of one coach who's now doing the gymnastics programming for other boxes because he did the connection. Yeah. And what a great way to add value to the bigger community by being able to do that. And another coach, he does injury prevention stuff. And he himself has workshops, but by educating the coaches in the coaches gathering, they were like, aha, maybe this is something that we need to do ourselves. And it's just a low Drempel's wrong word. It's a low bar of entry as such. Just go and socialize and learn from each other. And everybody does it voluntarily because it's, 3 hours on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and we understand family time and things like that. But unless we start investing time in our own development and connecting with others, then what are we doing this for?
Well, exactly. And then I guess to like take it back to the content, like I said, I'm obsessed with that analogy, is that the content isn't going to be the vehicle that gets you down to or as far down the road as it'll get you down the road, but it won't get you as far down the road to longevity.
Yeah. And it is less likely to create long-term change, and maybe even long-term generational change as such. And I think unless we start looking at the bigger picture of our members' lives and understanding the bigger impact it can have, I think it's a missed opportunity.
So going back to some tangibles, you already did kind of mention some, but let's kind of think about maybe if you have, putting you on the spot, 3 tangible takeaways that someone listening could start to do. Let's go number 1. And they don't have to be in order of most or least important, but the first thing that comes to mind, something tangible. Yeah.
The first thing to come to mind is really go and learn your members' whys.
Okay.
End of discussion. And not just a surface why.
Yeah. So how could they do that? Because I feel like at times, and maybe this is your answer, but like they're like, go to coffee with them or chat with them after. Or,
no.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you can, of course, but if you have 150 members, then that's a lot of time you're spending drinking coffee, which is not a good plan. But it simply means is, if every class you do a check-in with that member, and every class you build a tiny bit up of understanding somebody's why, yeah, you'll get there. And for some people, you'll get there quicker than others. Some people aren't even really aware of their deeper why. They're scared of dying of a heart attack like their father did, or whatever it might be. But I think we need to understand our members' whys. And that would be step 1. And step 2 was never lose sight of the person in front of you. They are more important than any movement. Yeah. And then step 3 is never lose your curiosity in yourself, in your members and everything. So
how do we do step 2? How do we do? Because I like that, but it's almost like
okay. Well then, yeah. So by not losing sight of our member, we're going to get really practical now. We understand what the intended stimulus of the workout is.
Yes.
Yeah? But we can translate that to the member's goals for that day.
Okay.
Yeah? So for example, Fran, we know it's meant to be a fire breathing, whatever, but we also know that I'm going to use Mary again. Mary is here just to move that day. And she doesn't want the fire breathing thing, but you know what? She has thrusters at the RX level, but not all of them. So why not let her do a few thrusters? We're not going to make this we're not going to make this a measurable, repeatable workout for her. We're going to let her feel like she's achieved something while hitting the intended stimulus, if that makes sense. So this is where we can balance. I really believe things need to be repeatable, the things that should be repeatable. But there are moments when we have to give our members permission to practice, to try things out. What does it feel like to try to do a handstand push-up under fatigue? What does it feel like to do, to do the first round of DT as a heavy DT? Yeah. We have to give them permission to explore those moments, because if the only thing we're focused on is having every workout repeatable, then we are missing the opportunities to help them grow.
Yeah, and I mean, so like to tie those 2 things together then is, like I said, I keep coming back to this content, but I do feel like, again, that focus of the content hinders growth as a coach as well as growth as a business. And I work with Matt Dubrec on, we have a little coaching webinar thing we do, and we talked about like, if the whiteboard, what you have written on the whiteboard is so important that you actually have to turn people away from your classes because you can't deliver it to them, and I mean like truly safely, or as opposed to saying like, okay, there's 18 of you today, so we're going to do an EMOM version of this workout.
Yeah.
Right? Is like to say like, hey, we have to change the content on the board today to match the people who are in front of me, because I know people might moan and groan, but believe me, you would moan and groan more if you didn't get into class versus the fact that we have to hit scale today and do an EMOM version of today's workout instead of doing it as written. So
yeah,
I think that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's also where, for a long time we've put in the prescribed as written as the holy grail. Right. And I think the discussions about Murph, like over the weekend and stuff, shows now that there's definitely a bigger shift in the community to appreciate, that is no longer our holy grail, the as written.
Yeah.
It's more about what is this person capable of in front of me,
right.
as such. And I think that's where we have to continue developing as an ecosystem as such, is to remember that the as written is great for making sure things are measurable and repeatable. But once again, it doesn't always hit what our members need in that moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably you. Do you guys? Do you have in the Netherlands a national holiday in May?
So yes and no, but not a fixed one. But
Okay.
we also have May the 5th is our Freedom Day here as such from World War II.
Okay.
And we have also a Veterans Day in June. And
Okay.
so a lot of affiliates will do Murph either the weekend just gone, or they will do it on one of the other 2 days.
Okay. Yeah. So for us, we have, I know you're not a member of the Commonwealth, but we celebrate Victoria Day. I don't know if it's a national holiday, or I think it is a national holiday. So
Right.
Canada has Victoria Day. We call it the Long May weekend, and it
Mhm.
generally falls a week before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will move Murph from holiday Monday in the US to holiday Monday in Canada. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, I think it's like, okay, well, Murph is going to take longer. How am I going to get it in on time? So I have to put it on a holiday or a Saturday, and we're going to make it 2.5 hour classes. It's like, well, what if you just ran it on Monday and made it your workout of the day? And what
Mhm.
if you gave people the opportunity to do it half Murph or partner Murph?
Yeah.
Or what if you realize, hey, as long as people are safe, it's okay if my classes overlap,
Overlap. Well,
right?
and it's interesting that you say this because for a number of years I ran Murph and the affiliate where I've been coaching at, and we did have overlapping starts. That's
Yeah.
all we did, you know? And we just made sure there was enough space in the rigs for when the people were doing the pull-ups, and there was a whole area for people to do their air squats.
Yeah.
All of this is manageable. All it is, when you talk about those things, you need to think outside this box of 1 hour. And
Right.
you need to think outside this traditional whiteboard brief warm-up, specific warm-up workout. There are more ways than one to skin a cat. And you can still hit all those points, but as you said yourself, with things overlapping. It doesn't they don't have to be completely pulled out of each other. So
Well,
I
and there's,
think that sorry, go
I
on.
was just gonna say, yeah, sorry, like, cause and it's fresh for us because it was 2 days ago, was
Mm,
I rolled into the gym at 10:30 on Monday, and this lady, older lady in her early 60s, says, I just beat my Murph by 10 minutes. And that's someone who doesn't come on Saturdays or holidays,
mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
by giving her the opportunity to do it, she's now seen. So guess what she is? She's committed all the way to next year.
Mhm.
So, and we had 100 athletes do Murph on the Monday throughout the whole
Nice.
day of classes. So that's
Mhm.
that's half our gym.
Yeah. But I would argue that you need to do what's going to work best for your affiliate and what your members need.
Of
Because I know
course.
there's some affiliates, especially around this area, that they prefer to make a big thing out of it, that
Sure.
everybody comes together as such, and it's seen as an event and it's seen as a moment for memorial or veterans or whatever they want to mark it as.
Mhm.
Um, but that's where I would ask affiliates, think outside the box. Think about what your members need. Think what will work for them and what will get as many of your members as possible doing this. Because
Yeah.
it's like somebody now wanting to do a high rocks or a marathon or whatever. It
Sure.
is something I do believe all CrossFitters should experience at least once, are
Mhm.
these type of hero workouts to understand really why they're called hero workouts.
So you are in the Netherlands, but
Mhm.
how can people who are listening to this interact with you?
Very easily. They can find me through it's probably the easiest way to find me through Instagram at
Yep.
Virtuous Coach Development. But I work with affiliates and coaches literally around the world. So from Australia, Malaysia, India, lots in Europe, and also in North America as such. Um, and as such, get to know my content, reach out. I have a link to sign up for my newsletters. Every Monday, I send out a newsletter with 3 actions, 2 inspirational sources, and 1 question. And the idea is to keep us curious. So they're about different topics, everything from leadership to holding the standards. You know, it's those type of topics to get us thinking more as such.
Cool. And on that note, 3, 2, 1, time.